This video begins with an exterior view of the bakehouse, shown from about 20 yards away, at an angle that makes the left side of the building appear smaller than the right, even though the structure is symmetrical. The single-story building, under an overcast sky, offers a striking contrast to the grays of the untreated woodshed and palisade walls nearby. It has bright white paint, a dark roof, and a vibrant crimson-colored door and window frames. These windows have small square panes, painted white, 4 across and 6 down, which slide open at the midpoint. A row of these square panes also serves as the transom, above the door. In front of the house, there is a wayside sign that gives more information about the structure and its history, but the photos and texts on this sign are too small to be seen at this distance. Most of this video shows a Fort Vancouver staff member identified as Ranger Ryan, sitting on a wooden table inside the bakehouse. He is wearing a National Park Service uniform, with green pants and a khaki shirt, adorned with a golden name tag and NPS badge on his chest and a NPS Arrowhead logo on his sleeve. He has added an American flag pin to his uniform, right above the badge. But he is not wearing the traditional ranger hat in this scene, so his hair can be seen. It is shaved on the sides and short on the top, and he has facial hair stubble, like he hasn't shaved in a day or two. This bakehouse setting features a large brick oven, various cooking instruments, and an assortment of other historical props, such as lanterns and barrels. On the table next to Ryan is a peel, which looks like a long wooden paddle, with 3 sea biscuits sitting on it. Throughout this video, still images are shown to illustrate different points. Those will be described as they appear.
This building is called the bakehouse. It was used to bake large quantities of sea biscuits, also known as hardtack. For the people who lived and worked in remote areas, like Fort Vancouver, finding enough food was an ongoing problem, especially in the first years after a trading post was established.
A black and white illustration of Fort Vancouver, at its height in the mid-1800s, shows an overview of the historic area. The viewpoint is elevated, like on a hill, and from a distance, looking over many miles of land. The few people visible in the scene, such as a trio standing near the main road, are just specks of black. That large dirt road, wide enough for the horse-drawn wagons shown using it, cuts the scene roughly in half. Fort Vancouver is on the viewer's right side of this road, near the Columbia River, with its wooden stockade protecting many buildings inside it, but there are also other small wooden buildings strewn around outside of the palisade walls, and the fort's fenced orchards. On the left-hand side of the road, a gradual hill rises to a plateau, where the fort has a large garden on its slope, and where the Americans have started to build a military encampment to look down on the British trading center.
When Fort Vancouver was established in 1825, there was an abundance of wildlife on the land and in the Columbia River. However, there were no shops or stores or places to order food, and the fort did not yet exist. So establishing the land was one of the first things Fort Vancouver employees worked on.
Sea biscuits are shown being slid off a peel onto a wooden table. This is a close-up, with only the hands of the baker and the peel's paddle head in the shot.
Sea biscuits provided basic nourishment to many Fort Vancouver employees. Those who worked near the fort, those who worked at one of the small trading posts in remote areas, the ship's crew who sailed back and forth from England, delivering furs and bringing back supplies.
2 drawings are used to illustrate the fort's trading activities. The first, in black and white, shows a couple of traders paddling in a canoe toward a ship on the river. The canoe has various goods stacked between and around the men. The ship has 2 large masts and a paddle wheel. Its sails are lowered, and a large wooden building can be spotted in the background, near the shore. The second image, also a drawing, has no background. Its emphasis instead is on the 2 characters interacting with each other. They are both colorfully dressed, in blue pants adorned with red stripes. The man on the left has his back to the viewer, showing his long matching blue coat and blue hat, topped by a red puffball. He wears a small bag, like a modern purse, around his shoulders. It has an elaborate beaded strap, featuring reds and yellows. He also has a hatchet and a knife in the sash around his waist. He is talking to a similarly dressed man, who has a load of furs hanging from a strap on his shoulder. His coat is white, and he also has a large white and black feather joining the red puffball on the top of his hat.
There were also employees on small ships that would sail up and down the Pacific coast, hunting and trading for furs. As long as a sea biscuit stays dry, it will last indefinitely. If a sea biscuit is baked properly, it is as hard as a brick.
Sea biscuits are shown up close. There are 4 of them on a wooden peel's paddle head. They are circular and pocked with holes. They look very hard, like an English muffin that has been cooked way too long.
How would you eat something so hard? They would soak it in a cup of tea, or add it to soup, or if they had animal fat, the biscuit would soften when fried.
A costumed baker is shown making the fire for the oven and preparing sea biscuits to be cooked. The baker has a white-brimmed hat. He also is wearing suspenders and a white apron. He first lights a piece of kindling that he holds in his hands to get a flame started. Then, he places the kindling on a small and neatly stacked pile of sticks, which quickly catches fire. The next set of scenes show the rooker being used to rake coals from the oven, a sea biscuit being flattened by a rolling pin, and the baker using a peel to put sea biscuits into the oven.
To make sea biscuits, a hardwood fire was built in the front of each 10-foot by 10-foot oven to heat up the bricks. Once the correct temperature was reached, the hot coals would be removed with a rake called a rooker. The oven floor was then swabbed clean with a wet rag on a pole called a scuffle. The freshly formed dough would be placed in the oven with a peel where it would bake for 3 hours.
To illustrate the natural resources being discussed next, video clips are shown in a quick succession to illustrate the following. A rooster and a couple of chickens walking around in grass, near a wooden fence. A grassy field with rain clouds moving over the area, as if the camera was placed in the grass, looking up, and time was sped up dramatically to give the impression that these clouds were quickly passing by. Wheat stalks blowing in the wind on a sunny day. A heavily forested area, mostly dark, due to the thickness of the trees. But some sun rays sneak through the foliage. A tree-covered hill in the fall, distinguished by the yellow and brown leaves on the trees. Again, the gray rain clouds are sped up, to emphasize their movement over the area. A shoreline, with waves breaking. The videographer is standing amidst the waves and looking out at the water and the peninsula in the background. A recently tilled farm plot. The videographer this time is standing at the fence line that parallels the plot, and the imagery follows that line into the distance, where the sun is rising over a hill. This sequence ends with another image of wheat stalks in the sun.
If you wanted to start a farm, what natural resources would you need? A mild climate that wasn't too hot or too cold, plenty of rain, rich soil that could grow crops, and plenty of trees that could be used to build barns, fences, and houses. This area had all of those things, including the Columbia River, that not only provided fresh food and water, but also a means of transportation. Fort Vancouver is only 100 miles from the Pacific Ocean, so ships from all over the world could sail to Fort Vancouver and trade for goods and supplies. By 1845, farming and agriculture was a major part of the work at Fort Vancouver, and most of the employees worked on the farm rather than in the fur trade. Farm production contributed to the profits as well, helping to reduce the amount of food that was brought in from elsewhere.
The final 2 images in this video show the people of Fort Vancouver. The first one is a modern illustration of the diversity of the fort, showing a line of different people of varying social classes and cultures gathered together in unity in front of the fort's stockade. Mostly the costumes are formal, such as the yellow ankle-length dress with high white collar worn by a young brown-skinned girl in the front row. Native Americans are shown in trapper or traditional clothes, intermingling with the working class as well as the British gentlemen of the fort. A couple of the trappers hold long rifles in front of them, leaning on them like canes. A blacksmith has brought his anvil and hammer to the gathering. There is a small dog in the scene, too, which looks like a border collie. In the front of this group is a British gentleman in a tall felt hat and long formal jacket and cravat. He is an elder statesman and leader of the group, indicated by his posture, placement in the scene, and bushy white mutton chops. The second image is a faded photograph of Dr. John McLaughlin, chief factor of Fort Vancouver. His suit, cravat, and background are all dark, which draws attention to his white hair, mutton chops, and light eyes.
In addition, there were thousands of settlers in the area that needed food and supplies as they established their farms. Dr. John McLaughlin helped many hungry American settlers as they arrived here from the Oregon Trail.